All right, Rich Casanova here back in the Atlanta studios on the Global Podcast Studios Network. And we have a returning guest here joining us in the studio, Mr. Dewayne Hart. He's all things cybersecurity. So if it's ever been a question on your mind from your business to your personal internet, everything that's going on online these days, this is the guy you got to talk to. And actually, let's talk to him right now. So Dewayne, welcome to the studio.
Hey, well, it's always great to be back at Global Podcast Studio, having these great discussions. You know, Rich, one of the things I've always said about cybersecurity is that you can never stop.
Right.
All right.
There's no downtime. There's no vacations.
No, you never have any downtime because cybersecurity is always in that high op tempo mode where you're trying to stay ahead of the bad guys.
Right.
And bad guys happen everywhere, even on social media.
Yep.
You know, so.
And speaking of that, that's kind of our topic today. Is like information, issues or security, whatever, right?
Yeah. Talking about information sharing.
Yeah.
You know, because on these social media accounts like TikTok, for instance, Facebook, Instagram, all of your information is held privately.
Right.
Unless another source gains access to that information. Right. Now, a lot of listeners may say that, well, I'm protected because I have all the security settings I need for Facebook.
Right.
And all the different type of social media apps. Well, you are protected, but then there's always the rumor of somebody making an error.
Right.
Okay. And judging by what has happened over the past couple of years with privacy and information sharing, there have been a lot of changes in this industry with social media accounts and privacy and information sharing.
Yeah, I mean, we were just looking at an article earlier about TikTok and, China, on the international scale that is, and they really dominate that platform. And, and you're talking about, politics, you're talking about cultures, and you're talking about, who's controlling that. And it's one thing like the internet or your cell phone or your landline, but when you're we all check that little box, right? When you agree to the terms, but those terms are pages and pages. No one really reads those terms, right?
Well, those terms are what I call pre-warnings or some pre-safeguards or something, to put in place just to ensure that the social media outlet or the individual have a consent agreement.
Right.
But as we look at technology, and because technology always changes, there's always the room for error.
Right.
Now, this is not saying that social media accounts are the bad guys.
Right.
What we're dealing with is technology, and technology changes. Every day, the hackers and the bad guys are trying to find ways to make normal people's life miserable.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
For no apparent reason to me or whatever, right?
Yeah, because 50 years ago, crime was happening on a physical level.
Right.
But now crime is an electronic
crime
format.
Right.
So that means that the bad guys are hiding behind a computer somewhere, and you don't know who they are because they're connected to so many different networks. And their sole premises is to break through privacy, break through information sharing, like for TikTok itself. And I will admit that I just joined TikTok about 3 months ago. Uh-huh. I was never really a strong person of certain social media accounts. Right. But, looking at the current news here and knowing that what happened with TikTok, I think that when I look at any of it, I focus back on the cybersecurity mindset. Now, there's nothing good about privacy and certain accounts being shared to the wrong source.
Right.
But let's just focus on something for a minute here. When issues are found, that's the opportunity for success. Now, I'm not here to advocate that maybe we should find ways to have problems with social media accounts, right? I am just advocating that when problems do occur, find ways to fix it, but also to learn from it. Because if you don't have any ideas about why the problem happened or when it happened, you're never going to be able to prevent those issues from happening in the future. So in the cybersecurity mindset, I always talk about the responsible actions and ownership model. And because a lot of times in the cybersecurity industry, people are ashamed to say that they find faults.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you talk to a technical person, he may go, "Oh yeah, well, we're still fixing it," right?
Yeah.
Or pretty much, you may not answer his email. Right. Whichever one comes first.
Right.
So
exactly. Depends on who's looking over his shoulder. Yeah.
Right. So what normally happens is that as an individual, you always have to be thinking about how to protect yourself, but also too, you keep in mind that the responsible actions and ownership is very important too, because when the problems happen, it's okay to communicate it. Now, management has to have a buy-in for that too.
Right.
Now that's where the cybersecurity culture comes to play into role too, because management has to build a culture where it's conducive, or it's an open framework where when problems occur, you can come to my desk and talk to me. I'm not going to fire you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you kind of hit on a couple of points as a listener. When we have an interview, I think of what would the listener be thinking at this moment? And you kind of struck a chord about it's at the end of the day, it comes down to buyer beware, right? No matter what you're purchasing, whether you're signing up for a free account on social media, whether you're buying a car or, real estate or food, whatever it is, it's like you should be cognizant at some point of just be aware of your surroundings and aware of, even just buying something in the retail store. What's my return policy, right? If I don't like it. Right. Oh. And same thing with online security or online internet access, or especially social media. Just be aware that this, at some point could be a challenge. So don't share everything, about everything about your information. Keep something not online. Right.
Well, I think the readers are probably now trying to delete their TikTok account.
Exactly, yeah. And you're by no way suggesting that, right? It's just like you get a car. It could be dangerous. Just drive safely. Obey the rules of the highway.
Right. See, I always like to state that when there's a sense of awareness, individuals can understand how to protect themselves. But let's just go even deep and farther and look at the news article.
Right.
Okay. Certain listeners are probably sitting down now and wondering, now, how did that happen?
Right.
Okay. Because we have the brightest in the minds of IT personnel.
Right.
And we have the best in the breed of technology. So why do we keep having these issues? All right. And in the middle of that is the mindset. Now, when you think about the cybersecurity mindset, that's where it comes to play a pivotal role. Okay.
Right.
Because it resolves those challenges and help readers understand the common sense approach to cybersecurity.
Right.
Okay. It's not complicated. Okay. It only becomes complicated because people make it complicated.
Right.
Okay. But the cybersecurity mindset puts information in a common sense approach so that when something like this happens, okay, individual can understand why it happens, and organizations can look and say, okay, we're not going to do this again.
Right.
Because, it's just a matter of making sure that you operate cybersecurity at the front line.
Well, a lot of times you mentioned in your podcast, in your book, which, by the way, we should go ahead and mention, if you're listening to this podcast, you got to check out DewayneHart.com. That's where you'll find more episodes of this podcast, as well as copies of his book. You can order online there. And then today was a big announcement, kind of shifting gears real quick, but you had a milestone, you're bringing up another level. So what happened earlier today in the studio you want to share with your listeners?
Well, my listeners, I had my first live stream today.
Yeah.
This was something you and I had talked about is that, I do a lot of podcasting.
Yeah.
But I think that having a live stream was very important.
Yeah.
Because it gives readers a face-to-face engagement with me and to see what my thinking process is and to bring a podcast and to bring a book to the market.
Right.
Okay. What was the thought behind that? So it's the first of many live streams.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So you're kind of like meeting your audience where they're at, right? So I really enjoy podcasts. I'm a little bit biased running a podcast studio and a network and so forth. But when I'm going to lead the trail here after the studio and go listen to podcasts, and I have your podcast on my phone as well, right? But then a lot of people just like to sit down with a cup of coffee and in their own zone just read a book, right? And go through those pages, right? And not be online. And then others, really enjoy watching Netflix or, the visual, the video. So you're kind of, meeting again your audience where they're at. And that's really unique because most people just kind of release one, but you're kind of hitting all the media outlets, right?
Yeah. Well, what you want to do is to be realistic about the way that you deliver information.
Right.
And I've said that in my live stream that the reason I wrote the book was because, I wanted the communities to learn, but I had to be very realistic about it because there are some people that don't understand cybersecurity and never touch it. And then there are people that are involved with academics, and then there are cybersecurity professionals. And also too, there are executive management people that have to use cybersecurity. So to have different platforms really helps out readers and listeners because there's some people that are probably in the gym working out now that are probably listening to this podcast and saying, hey, it works out for me well. All right. And good on lifting all your weights.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We won't say anything too shocking. We're going to drop a weight. Yeah. In the middle of the gym. But yeah, you hit on pretty much all areas of cybersecurity from, the leadership to last episode, we talked about online safety for children. We've talked about the government implications. You mentioned during this episode a lot about companies and their responsibilities. But back to the earlier topic that we opened with is online, security questions you may have in terms of social media. I was thinking as well, like, again, just be aware of your surroundings. So it's like when you go on these platforms, they can really make a big impact on your business, your personal life. There's a lot of upsides to, having be able to get your message out, whether it's a nonprofit, just a passion project behind your business to generate more business. We've certainly seen business generated from social media, but just like be cognizant of that, right? Just be careful about what you're doing or not doing, and you should have that gut feeling of like a red flag. And you mentioned to your book, I love the thing of your hacker's hat, right? I'm gonna have you talk about that in a second, but I'll just finish on this. Like credit cards are an amazing way to do business and transactions, but you wouldn't leave your credit card just out on the table for somebody to walk away with, right? So be careful about your information on social media.
Well, I can say this for sure, is that everything you just discussed is about situational awareness.
Yeah, there you go.
It's about knowing the environment.
Right.
Okay. People practice situational awareness at home all the time.
Right, exactly.
Now what needs to happen is we need to transition that over to cybersecurity.
That hacker's hat, right? Think in terms of what would, again, back to the retail situation with your credit card or your cash, you're at a gas station. If you see something, say something, that mindset, right? So we understand that in, quote, the real world, but talk to us about the hacker's hat and, applying some of those principles on the online world.
Well, let's think about the hacker's hat. It is a simple methodology that actually means that if hackers are in lane A and regular people are in lane B, this is the common sense approach here. The first one that make it to the finish line wins.
Yeah.
Now, how can you defeat a hacker? First of all, you have to understand the way they operate. That is part of wearing the hacker's hat, which is also the hacker's mentality.
Right.
What is it that hackers are looking for?
Right.
How do they communicate amongst each other? Okay. What is the new trend and security issues? Hackers are researching those issues.
Right.
We as normal people that work in cybersecurity and everywhere else should actually be doing the same. But also, too, hackers share information.
Right.
Now, information sharing is probably great amongst regular cybersecurity people, but a lot of companies are still kind of shallow at sharing a lot of information. So that hacker's hat is very important. It is the thinking process that you need to have in place so that you can think like a hacker. Because if you can think like a hacker, then you cannot perform them.
Well, again, I'll just kind of keep drawing the analogy to online, offline, right? So, because I think the general listener understands these principles offline, and then you're translating that to online security, right? So, again, another couple of things I'm thinking about. You wouldn't go into a neighborhood that you're not familiar with at 2:00 in the morning, right? You wouldn't leave your door wide open all day long, right? When you leave the house, you're going to lock your door, right? Now, you can't prevent all the crime, so you could be in a comfortable environment at the mall or whatever, or, at the airport, you feel safe. Anything's possible, right? But that hacker's hat mindset that we think offline of like, I'm going to lock my car. Somebody could still break into my car, right? But at least I made the effort to lock it. So is that what you're talking about in terms of online awareness?
Wow, Rich, you sound like a cybersecurity professional.
Right. Well, I've been hanging around the expert for so long. I feel like I could at least maybe write a chapter or maybe a paragraph in your next book. Yeah.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah. It is called transforming your mindset. Okay. Because it is raising that awareness.
Right.
It is our situation awareness.
Right.
And knowing that some of the common practices we practice outside of cybersecurity still relate to cybersecurity.
Right.
In my book, The Cybersecurity Mindset, I really push on that and show certain situations such as you come into your home and your lights are on.
Right.
But you know that you did not leave your lights on.
Right.
This is your situation awareness arising because of the environmental knowledge that you have, because that environment was different when you left before.
Right.
Now, cybersecurity is the same concept, okay?
Right.
But you are using IT systems.
Yeah.
Because people know that when they lock their laptop and they leave it on the desk and they come back and it's not locked and they see email up, that should raise your cyber senses to say, okay, what happened? Somebody don't log into my laptop. Right. These are the smaller little things. But speaking of privacy and so forth on these social media accounts, as of now, I'm actually thinking, okay, what type of situation awareness arose to TikTok where they could see that there was issue with information sharing?
Right.
Okay. What actually changed? Could it have been that when the information leaked that probably they found it on the web somewhere where someone say, I found this information on TikTok? Or pretty much was they trying to do some type of compliance checks and then notice that things was different and that somebody had accessed the information via a database or something like that and extracted the information out? These are the components of situational awareness, all right? And it would be nice to know, but I don't think we're going to find out now because I think this is early in its stage and some of the investigation is still going on.
Yeah, I mean, relative to the all the centuries or decades we've been through, I mean, even the internet is still relatively, we kind of take it for granted, but it's still in its pioneering days, which sounds kind of crazy because it's been around in our world for so long. And matter of fact, our current generation, that's all they've ever known, right?
Yeah.
Right. But and then you add social media, another layer to it, right? So what's next, right? Right.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think we're gonna go back to having that shoebox in the closet, and having all of our information on a sheet of paper and you stack it inside of the shoebox.
Right.
Now, I don't think we're going back there, but there are certain people that are still on that level because they believe in safeguarding information because they honestly, believe in the most strongest way of being private and safe is to put it in a closet and lock it, because if nobody has access to the closet, then they can't get the information. All right. And there's still some folks that are still practicing that, but
yeah. I mean, there's also people that still believe the earth is flat too, right? But so there's always going to be those guys. But back to that is like, same premise of like, well, I'm not going to buy a car because somebody could break in and steal stuff inside my car.
Wow.
Right? Or so you're just going to walk everywhere, right? So you got to live in the real one, unless you live on an island, right? Or in the mountains somewhere in a isolated area. If you're living pretty much in the real world, I mean, it's nice to have a car, right? To get you not just from point A to point B, but to, travel, do business, do work. But you're going to be safe when you're driving it, right? You're going to be cognizant. So, having a LinkedIn account can be great for your profession, right? TikTok, I'm not necessarily on board with it, but a lot of people, and then there's the whole thing about social media. A lot of people are monetizing social media crazy, making awesome money. So it can be for some people that you didn't get the college degree or just don't have, have hit a ceiling. Maybe they have a master's degree or what have you, but they've hit a ceiling. There's amazing income opportunities on social media and online to take advantage of, right? So we've been talking about, not to say the downside, but there's so many advantages as well, right?
Well, there are advantages of it because it allows us to connect with people instantly on our phones because, 25, maybe 30 years ago, everyone was using a phone, right?
Right.
Or you would probably have to drive by somebody's house so you could, tell them to meet you at the park before. Right. But now information can be shared readily.
Yeah.
I am a component in saying that social media is here to help us out because you think about how all of us are connected because people can share their world. Because that's what social media is about, is focusing on something where someone can share their world. Because someone likes to go fishing. And I was watching a couple of days ago, about the Gator Boy, right? He is the one that goes, I guess, in Central Florida and find different alligators and gators and go out there and feed them. That's his world.
Really?
Okay. He wants to share that with the world.
Right.
Okay. I don't have anything against it, but he wants to share it with the world. And they're just like families use social media.
Right.
But under the premises of social media, we always have to be thinking about privacy and trying to protect information.
Right.
And we can only do so much as regular people because we have a dependence on the social media outlets to actually do their parts as well. And speaking of our side,
right,
here's exactly some of the best practices.
Okay, here we go. Write this down. Get a pen and paper.
Okay. Do not share accounts. Okay. Number one, if you create a Facebook page,
right,
and if it's something for your family, maybe you want to make it private and only certain people can post to that particular page. 2 is log out of your accounts.
Okay.
All right. And if you're excited because you're out somewhere, and if you're on social media and you want to send a picture out, make sure you look at what you're sending because a lot of times when you send information through social media, it can be like a virus and it'll spread everywhere.
Right.
Okay. 3 is privacy is important. If you're taking pictures, do not stand in the back of your car with your car tag showing.
Oh, okay. Right.
All right.
Holding your driver's license.
Right. Here goes the last one.
Okay.
There is a game I saw on Facebook, which is called the car challenge or the age challenge, right?
Okay.
This is where a person's supposed to post 2 things about their age, okay?
Right.
Or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now let's step back for a minute. Banks call you to authenticate your account.
Right.
Those are the same 2 things that bank asks you about. Age,
right?
Or maybe what actual year you was born,
right?
Okay, and what type of car did you have about 3 years ago?
Right. Yeah.
All right. And now what happens is that people will provide their information on Facebook, but Hacker A is sitting over here grabbing all that information.
Right.
And now, they're going to call around to a couple of banks and try to authenticate you in.
Wow.
And, even the question is about, tell me the first bank that you became a client of or something
Right.
like that, right? Oh, well, I became a client of Wells Fargo 10 years ago, and I'm still there.
Right.
Well, the next challenge asks 2 questions about your first car and
Right.
maybe your age. Okay, those are the 2 challenges they're going to use to try to authenticate into your account. It's just that simple.
Right. So those groups on Facebook or maybe on a Zoom call, they're just having a friendly conversation, and they don't have any intent, but
No.
it's the hacker that's monitoring that.
Yeah.
That realizes, and they probably have filters and everything else. They can pull up those keywords.
Yeah. You see that, but I think that people spend a lot of time really wanting to share their world.
Right.
Okay. And, we just have to be smart about the way we share our world.
Right.
Okay. And I have family members that use Facebook, but they use it at a minimum, right?
Right.
So they don't share a lot of information. They'll go log in once a month. Hey, how you doing?
Right.
All right. And then you don't hear from them until 3 months later, but they watch what everybody else does. Okay.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the person.
Right.
Okay. You just have to be mindful about what you do. Make sure that you minimize and limit information sharing, and also to just pay very close attention to postings that you put on these social media outlets.
Well said, sir. We're almost out of time here. So speaking of sharing, let's share some of your upcoming episodes, and then also how people would get in touch with you. So from what I'm hearing through the grapevine, in your upcoming episodes in podcasting, you're talking about supplier engagements, moving the U.S. government towards zero trust cybersecurity principles. What are some other topics? I know you're going to be talking about the workforce development, right?
Yes. Workforce development, some of the CI SSP information that's needed. Some of that may just be on live stream session as well,
okay.
which is a training. But the idea of bringing forth some of the things such as digital parenting,
right?
That one is going to be a very, very important live
topic.
stream session.
Big time.
Yeah, because I want parents to come on board and to share information about how they have made digital parenting operate and work, but also I want to be able to bring parents to that next level, because digital parent, it goes beyond yourself.
Right.
So you actually have to look at the youth and make sure that the youth is practicing and protecting themselves, and private information for the family is not being leaked.
100%. Very important topic. And I'll finish on this. One of the ones I'm looking forward to is the topic of automobile industry and cybersecurity of your vehicle. The hacker's hat when you're driving down the road and the access. But jokingly, I was going to say, I don't have to worry about that one because I'll be driving my 1972 Chevy Camaro, so it's not connected to the internet at all. I wish I had one; it would be really valuable at this point. But all right, Dewayne, was it a pleasure having you in the studio again? And the beauty about how do I follow up or learn more about the podcast, the YouTube, his book? The beauty is you don't have to remember all the social media handles and all the websites. It's just 2 words, Dewayne Hart, and just add the .com.
That's it.
Right. All right, Dewayne. Well, again, check out his book, his podcast, his YouTube series, all at DewayneHart.com. We'll see you next time in the studio.